Imagine you're staring at a chicken wearing a jetpack. Sounds ridiculous, right? But that's exactly what innovation often looks like at first. Absurd, impossible, even laughable. And yet, somewhere in the madness, brilliance takes flight. But here's the thing about brilliance. It doesn't emerge fully formed. It's forged through friction, resistance, and most importantly, criticism. Without criticism, innovation is stagnant and ideas remain half-baked, barely scratching the surface of their true potential. Let me ask you something. When you hear the word criticism, what do you think of? This project is terrible, your idea is nonsense. Well, sadly, that's exactly how the world portrays it. And for many of us, it's something we try to avoid. But what if instead we use that as leverage? You see, that's where the magic lies. Criticism, when constructive, is not a barrier, but a catalyst for progress. Now, as an aspiring engineer, I've seen how vital criticism has proved in pushing the boundaries of innovation. Whether you're designing a simple machine or a complex system, criticism is an indispensable part of the process. However, there's a fine line between feedback that tears down and feedback that builds up. Destructive criticism offers purely negative feedback and no solutions. It feels like a dead end. But constructive criticism, hey, that's a gold mine. It doesn't just point out what's wrong, it shows you the way forward. Think of it like sandpaper. It's rough, sure, but its purpose is to smoothen the edges, to refine the final product. Constructive criticism works the same way. It takes your rough ideas and polishes them into something extraordinary. Over the summer, I took a trip to Kenya. I volunteered at a school there to teach, and it was in a rural village. Their only source of potable water was a manual pump. I watched these students practically breaking their backs just to fill up one bucket of water. I wanted to help. I wanted to create an automatic pump for them, but I was afraid of failing. What if everyone laughed at me? What if I made a faulty design? These questions, they never stop. But I couldn't possibly stand here and talk to you about failure if I wasn't willing to confront it myself. So, my friends and I are now working on a solar-powered water pump to help such villages access potable water, just as the rest of the world does. So far, our designs have been flawed. And many times we get told that we're too ambitious, especially because we're just high school students. But every now and again, there's a voice offering constructive criticism. They don't just say, this is wrong. They tell you, here's how to do it right. And that's when it clicked. Criticism, when constructive, isn't an obstacle. It's a tool. It's a driving force behind engineering. Now, from my experience with criticism, I've learned that progress, lasting progress, starts with 3 simple steps. Firstly, listen with an open mind. When we're criticized, our natural instinct is to defend ourselves. But what if we listened? Criticism isn't a personal attack, it's an opportunity to grow. It puts into perspective flaws that may have been overlooked. Secondly, separate emotion from insight. Not all feedback is kind, and not all of it is constructive. But sometimes, even harsh criticism can contain valuable insights. So if we're able to separate the delivery from the true message, then we're able to extract what matters most: actionable guidance. And that leads me to my third point. Take action and reflect. Criticism is a tool, right? But criticism without action is just wasted potential. Once we identify areas for improvement, the next steps include taking action and reflecting on the results. Now, what do I mean by taking action? Experiment, test new approaches, challenge previous methods, and reflect based on the outcomes. Think of it like trial and error. It may not get you any marks on a math exam, but for innovation, it's the perfect strategy. Now, in the real world, there's a simple loop for progress. Create, get criticized, experiment to trial and error, voila, you have progress. So through these steps, my friends and I, we aren't just building a water pump, we're building resilience. And this brings me to something crucial, the idea of control. Imagine this. Two people receive the same piece of harsh criticism. One walks away feeling defeated, blaming the critic for their failure, whereas the other uses it as fuel to refine their product. What makes the difference? It's not the critique itself, but rather how they perceive it. And this perception ties into something called the locus of control. Those with an internal locus of control believe they have the power to shape their own outcomes, even in the face of external challenges like criticism. So like person B. Instead of saying, they don't understand my vision, they ask, what can I learn from this? So by adopting an internal locus of control, we take ownership for how criticism influences us. It stops being something that happens to us and starts to become something that happens for us. Every piece of feedback is like a component in an engineering system. A gear, a circuit, or a bolt. On its own, it might seem out of place. But as we start to combine the individual pieces, they become essential to the final mechanism. The journey from idea to innovation isn't always a straight line. In fact, it rarely is. It's more like a maze. And criticism, that's the map that guides us when we hit a dead end. Criticism is like a dagger to the heart. It's painful, but it's one of the most powerful tools we have for growth. It forces us to question, to adapt, to innovate. So the next time someone says, you can't do this, don't let their words tear you down. Ask yourself, is this feedback a roadblock or a guide? Because brilliance isn't achieved through avoiding criticism. No, brilliance is achieved through using criticism to drive innovation and ultimately progress. Fall in love with failing. Fall in love with criticism. Because in the end, the chicken with a jetpack might just take flight. And if it does, it'll be because of every critique, every failure, and every moment of perseverance along the way. Thank you.